Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Sabrina Daly.
And I am Shyne Barrow. Good morning.
And thank you for joining us. Good morning, Isani.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you
Nice
doing?
to have you here on a Tuesday. Yes.
Well, I'm going to be here on the set for the next 3 days.
Uh-huh.
So, yes, I'm looking forward to that.
I know that you weren't able to attend yesterday, which is your normal scheduled appearance on Monday, because it was the first day of school for your last plug, yeah? How was that?
Well, I'll tell you this much, right? It's been an experience that I've looked forward to for quite some time. 2 weeks ago, we went in with my daughter, who's now in high school. And yesterday, we went in with my son, who's starting primary school.
Yeah.
And so, as a parent, the thrill of seeing your kids, you know, in their uniform and walking them into their classroom. And in my case yesterday, because it's a preschool setting, you know, being able to tour the facility and make sure that everything, you know, is intact in terms of, you know, what I would expect for that environment for children. And I must say that I'm, you know, satisfied and pleasantly surprised that I walked into an environment that was completely conducive for learning for kids.
You know, that's interesting that you said that because 2 weeks ago when we had this conversation, I asked you the same question. I asked, you know, what do you do when you go on the first day? Is it to scope out the classroom? And you said, I was simply a fan. I was there to take photos. So this time around, I'm happy to know that.
Too. Not that I took photos too.
This time around, he's there scoping, making sure little Isani is well equipped and prepared for his first day of kindergarten. And of course, yourself also being a fan and capturing those moments.
You know what's been the journey or the lesson in all of this is that boys are in fact different from girls. You know, if I could recall perhaps 10 or so years ago when my daughter started, she was focused from an early age and she knew what she wanted to do and how she wanted to do it and so on and so forth. And so because of that, she was settled in fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Well, with my son, he's a bit more rambunctious and lively and all of that stuff. So getting his attention to focus squarely on one thing at a time can prove challenging at times, right? But it just goes to show the difference in terms of how kids are at a certain age and how they interact.
You know what I find so adorable, and I say this because I have not experienced it as yet, so maybe adorable might not be the best choice of word, but I love hearing, you know, how parents get emotional when they send their babies to the first official day of school, and you hear these kids having no interest in mommy and daddy anymore. They're at big school, you know. So they have been so ready to leave home while the parents are the ones that are trying to detach themselves and be strong and not cry.
Well, so here's a difference between a 13-year-old and a 4-year-old, right? With the 4-year-old, when we took him in yesterday, he was immediately drawn to the educational toys in the classroom. So as we walked in and he saw the blocks and all of these other stuff, he totally forgot about mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
In the case of my daughter, when we took her in, you know, it was fairly brand new to her. She did perhaps a week or two of summer school. It's not to say that those kids in that program over the summer were the same kids that would be in her actual homeroom, right? But there was some familiarity there.
Yeah.
But walking in with her, it was still sort of strange for her. So real that all these girls are around.
So you could sense the
nerves.
nerves.
Stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
So we were there for that to make sure that, you know, she got in and, you know, she was able to find her classroom, find a desk and what have you. And it's wonderful experience, I'll say that much.
I love this time of the year. I love back to school season. You get to see these proud parents take their kids to school. You get to see that first day of school picture. I love the little poster boards that a lot of kids use when they talk about what age they are, what they want to be when they grow up, who their teacher is, what are the things that they enjoy. And the really, for me, I guess, heartwarming or wholesome part of it is knowing that that might just change over time in different phases of life. You know, I saw kids wanting to be a police woman, you know, wanting to just eat ice cream, you know, for their job. And those things will change as we evolve into whatever stages of life we go into. So this part of the season, I particularly enjoy.
I think if there is one message that I would want to share with the public and parents, certainly, and it's not me being preachy or anything, it's just something heartfelt and dear to me. I think the best gift you can give a child is the gift of a quality education. Right? If you want to be able to improve your life or, you know, sort of ameliorate an otherwise difficult situation, the best thing to do is to educate yourself or educate your children so that they could uplift themselves out of that. And so, you know, my parents have always been staunch in terms of making sure that we're properly educated and what have you. And for me, that's my guiding light. That's the least that I could do for my kids is to ensure that they are well educated and they can go off on their own when they become adults.
Yeah, and then there's a saying that goes, they can take away anything from you, but they can't take away your education. So, yeah, we're going to close that. Yeah, we're going to close that back to school reflection on that note. But it's also the September celebrations. And I was not here on Monday, so I have to talk about this gorgeous set, Isani. I mean, it's beautiful. It reflects the September celebrations that obviously includes the carnival season as well. And we've been featuring some elements of the carnival that's coming up this Saturday as well.
I'll start off by saying this, right? September, next to Christmas, is the, next to December, sorry, is the most anticipated time of year. September, much like December, is when some of us get to see our family and friends who are out in the diaspora, who return to Belize to
celebrate,
spend time and celebrate. But September is everything. It's soca, it's patriotism, nationalism, you know, a hell of a lot of socializing.
Pride. And I mean, just over the weekend, there were so many activities that I know you also took part in. But I really love the month of September, because aside from it being an opportunity to showcase your civic pride, there's almost always something happening where families can come together and recreate. I mean, aside from going to the Keys and really enjoying that part of what Belize has to offer, there's the September parade, there's the carnival that's coming up right here. We just had the King and Queen competition, and I saw some really amazing videos where...
And you had the King and Queen. We started off with the Belikin Fest on Friday.
Yeah, I know you were there.
I don't know if they keep a head count in terms of the...
I heard Saturday was packed.
It was packed. I was there both days, actually. And
well, I don't doubt that. He's the ambassador for Belikin.
All I'm saying is this, right? The fact that they had an entirely Belizean lineup of performing artists. And when you see the reception of fellow Belizeans to the Bossa B band, to this artist or that one, and the sheer festive and jovial nature of it, you know, people were out in mass. And I mean, it's, for me, there are certain events that herald the time of year. And Queen of the Bay is one of them. I'm not a pageant kind of guy. I don't attend. But knowing that Queen of the Bay is coming up and seeing the girls and everything, you know that September is in full swing. The music on the radio. And then now the Belikin Fest has become part of that entire tradition. And then we look forward to King and Queen, which happened to be on the same Saturday night as the second day of the fest. But I'm certain that people who went over to the King and Queen moved over to Bellikin Fest afterwards.
Yeah, right after.
And this weekend, the next couple of days will be dedicated to Carnival Mass Camp. And I can't forget that because we are going to be providing coverage of Mass Camp in our nightly newscast for the next 3 days. So certainly you can look forward to that at 6 o'clock or maybe towards the end of the news, but in our news package nonetheless.
I just want to insert something that I did do over the weekend, and that was I attended the 80s
with Frankie Reno?
yes, concert from Frankie. Oh my gosh, it was amazing, Isani.
Are you familiar with 80s music? Like on that level? Or some of them were new to you?
No, none of them were new to me. I can't say that I knew all of them word for word.
Gotcha.
But I almost all the songs that I heard, I recognized. But there was something, Isana, that I have to mention, and I wish I provided the footage for it. Keenan Flowers, our KTV contestant for last season's KTV The Remix, he came in second place. He was a part of the show lineup, and he came out as Prince. Now, if you know Prince and Keenan, oh my gosh, Keenan embodied Prince with the hair from the outfit and just the personality of being so eccentric. It was such a show. We were laughing.
What was the song?
I don't remember the song.
When Doves Cry.
It wasn't. It was When Doves Cry. It was amazing. We saw folks from the seating area get up and start dancing to Last Night I Dreamt of San Pedro. Yeah, it was amazing. So
yeah.
I really wish that it was more than 2 days. The event was only held on Friday and Saturday. So I attended the Saturday show and I was really happy to be a part of it.
Somewhere last week. Speaking of Madonna, like, for some reason, for the better part of last week, my mind was on Spanish Eyes.
But
I just kept walking around and this song from Madonna just keeps playing in my mind. And then I went to YouTube and looked up the video and I just felt nostalgia all over again. But yes, I
wanted to mention, the concert in particular because, Isani, that was, that event really showcased the talent that we have here in Belize.
Yes.
When I tell you, Isani, these singers, they weren't singing, they were singing. They sounded so amazing, from the females to the males. I was so impressed, and I wish them all the best. I wish that they would get that exposure to really have their artistry be appreciated even outside of Belize. And of course, events like that are what helps them get that exposure, but I thoroughly enjoyed the show. And I encourage anyone, I know that Frankie Reno's concert only happens annually, so definitely when he has his next one, try to attend because it was really, really good. And it was for young and old persons, even if you're not born in the 80s or earlier.
Yeah, gotcha.
But all right, we're going to move over to our eye-opener this morning. And as you know, it's taken from dailyom.com, and it goes like this. Facing the truth up front, rather than turning from it, will keep your life moving in a forward and positive direction. Most of us have had the experience of being in possession of a piece of truth that we were afraid to share because we knew it would not be well received. There are also instances in which we ourselves have been unable to handle some truth confronting us. Usually, the truth is evident, and we can see it if we choose it. But we have elaborate ways of hiding the truth from ourselves, no matter how apparent it is. It takes a strong person to face the truth in circumstances like these, and many of us run for cover instead. Nonetheless, we can only avoid the truth for so long before it begins to make itself known in ever more forceful ways. Ultimately, there is no way to avoid the truth, no matter how painful it is. So the sooner we let down our defenses, the better. When we know the truth and accept that we may have to adjust our lives to accommodate, we are in alignment with reality. At the same time, we can be patient with people around us who have a hard time seeing the truth. because we know how painful it can be. Whatever the truth is, we make a sincere effort not to close our eyes to it, but instead to be grateful that we have access to it. Beautiful eye-opener.
First things first, right?
Uh-huh.
The truth is more often than not a bitter pill. So that because of that, many of us choose to run away from it as opposed to confront it and embrace it for the reality that it presents to us.
Yeah.
And I think it's in coming to terms that there will be certain revelations, certain perhaps occurrences, events in our lives that bring us face to face with the reality.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that we don't want to deal with it or face it, so to speak, we'll have to accept it. And in accepting the truth, and truth varies because yours may be different from mine.
Yeah.
And we're discussing the very same situation. It's just my vantage point or my perspective allows me to have my own idea of what the truth is, right? So it's relative, so to speak. But go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that I loved how you painted it. Sometimes the truth can be a bitter pill to swallow, because oftentimes hearing the truth is something that we tend to avoid.
Yep.
It's something that we might not want to accept or might not want to acknowledge. And oftentimes it's not always the most positive truth that you are avoiding to hear. So indeed it can be a bitter pill to swallow, but I think recognizing that on the other side of ingesting that bitter pill is the growth that can take place when you actually receive it. Of course, I cannot be the one to tell you that over time it'll get easier to receive that bitter pill, but I think if you lead in a way of wanting to grow, accepting those pills will be easier.
Well,
but also I want to use
right?
this opportunity to mention, and not to cut you cross, that sometimes the pill don't have to be so bitter too. You know, it's all about how you say it. So definitely, I think it's hard on its own to accept maybe a flaw that you have, that you don't really want to acknowledge.
The truth represents a certain reality.
Yeah.
It's the fact of the matter, so to speak. But how you choose to dress it is, for some people, what makes it all the more bitter, all the more difficult to accept, right? But, you know, when they give you Cena or they give you Seroquel,
I was thinking that too, bush medicine.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
You know that it's good for you to have a certain purpose, but you can't be hung up on whether or not sugar was added into it or a little bit of molasses or whatever to sweeten it. It is what it is.
And the truth is, Isani, just as the eye-opener said, sometimes we know those truths even before they are shared to us. We just tend to avoid it. So it's really recognizing, or maybe having a sense of introspection and deciding if you do want to grow and move past what that truth is, if it's something that is hindering you from growing in some aspect or another. All righty, we're going to move over to our weather report and forecast. And good morning.
Hi, good morning.
All right, what do we have as it relates to the general situation this morning?
Okay, mainly fair weather will prevail today with an increase in shower activity expected tonight.
All right, do you have an extended outlook?
Well, in the next 24 hours, we expect sunny skies with a few cloudy spells, becoming cloudy at times tonight, and then showers or thunderstorms will be isolated. Today, increasing over the coast and south tonight, and then shower activity will continue into tomorrow morning, decreasing during the afternoon, going into the evening.
Okay, and with these weather conditions, what kind of temperatures can we expect?
Okay, highs for today will be 90 along the coast, 95 inland, and 82 in the hills. And for tonight, 80 along the coast, 72 inland, and 68 in the hills.
All right. Do you have an update for the marine conditions?
Okay, winds will be from the east to southeast at 10 to 20 knots, and sea conditions will be slight to light chop.
All righty. Well, thank you so much, forecaster Cristel Rosales. We appreciate the information as always.
Right, you're welcome.
And you have a good one.
You too.
Alrighty, that was our weather update from the National Meteorological Service. We're going to move over to our show lineup this morning, and we have 3 great conversations for you. Starting things off, we'll be joined by the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Shyne Barrow, and he will be talking to us about the failed UDP protests, the state of the economy and governance, and preparations for the upcoming municipal elections.
Our second segment this morning, we will be talking to a mental health therapist as well as a registered clinical psychologist to discuss the issue of suicide and preventing it in the workplace.
All right, and in our final segment, we'll be joined by representatives of the Belize Tourism Board to do their live Proudly Belizean photo contest giveaway on the show. So you definitely don't want to miss that. But we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Leader of the Opposition, Shyne Barrow, to talk about many things. So don't go away.
Get ready, babe. We're going on a vacation.
Finally, where are we going?
Don't worry, babe. I have we covered.
Are you sure you know where we're going?
Yes, babe. Oh, right there. See? Babe, the price me too good to be true. Me look much more better in that picture.
When life throws you a curveball, Belize Bank has your back. With our online financing, you can turn any vacation mishap into a dream getaway.
Cheers to Belize Bank for making our dream vacation a reality.
Thanks to you, babes, to turn things around.
No thanks to you, cheapo.
Out.
Experience the future of financing with Belize Bank online, where you can secure funds for anything, from anywhere, at any time, all without stepping foot in a bank. Apply for a loan today and unlock a world of possibilities.
The carnival season is upon us, and mass bands nationwide are gearing up for the September celebrations. Be a part of this festive season by having your company float in this year's carnival. Interested businesses can email us at BelizeCarnivalAssociation19@gmail.com or give us a call at 670-9230 or 610-4466. Join us and make we shake the place.
Make your summer better. Over $30,000 in cash and prizes with Smart Summer Sweepstakes. Here's how you can enter for a chance to win. Sign up for a smart postpaid, broadband, or VoIP plan. Use $100 or more regular prepaid credit. Do a SIM swap or text in to the shark code 786. In the body of the message, enter the number of entries you would like to purchase.
No waste, no time. You can be the winner of weekly prizes. All methods give you more chances to win. Local airline tickets, overnight stays at numerous resorts, cash prizes, gift certificates, and much, much more. One lucky person will win the grand prize valued at $10,000, courtesy of Smart and the Belize Tourism Board.
Promotion ends September 15th. So make your summer better by getting in the race to win with Smart's Summer Sweepstakes. Smart, bringing people together.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 police teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 believes on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, because news is now everywhere, all the time, and so are we.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
And welcome back. Our first segment this morning is with the Honorable Shyne Barrow. He's the leader of the opposition and, of course, the party leader for the United Democratic Party. He's here with us this morning to discuss a number of issues regarding his party and, of course, regarding the state of Belize's economy and governance and crime and violence and everything else under the sun. Good morning, my brother.
Good morning.
Good morning to you both. Good morning to the wonderful people of Belize.
Yeah.
Especially Mesopotamia.
Right. Yes. You've been traveling for the past several days in last week. I know you've been in Grenada for a few days.
Yes.
Talk to us about that whirlwind tour that took you from the United States to the Caribbean.
Well, I was invited to be a panelist, a speaker for the Investment Festival. It is an annual festival that travels around the United States, and it is led by two brilliant financial literacy gurus, so I term them, and it is driven by the hip-hop culture. So it's really a new era for the hip-hop culture, urban culture, where financial literacy is a thing, how you invest. I have to give an acknowledgement to our very own Belizean, Kalila Enrique Reynolds, who does her thing in Jamaica. She's a financial journalist and media owner. She was also out there. But it really was an opportunity to talk about investing in Belize. Obviously, my ties to the hip-hop community as far as my accomplishments in that time of my professional existence, to know as the opposition leader of Belize, people were interested to hear that story and talk about fiscal frugality, fiscal restraint, which is something that I am mocked for sometimes by my political opponents when I say that, you know, we need to be restrained in our spending, etc. And anybody that deals with me knows that when it comes to spending, I am very restrained and very meticulous. And I think these are all good traits and practices to have as a society. And so I am so proud of these young men who have really revolutionized the hip-hop culture in a sense, because hip-hop is known for taking all of your money and wasting it for the most part, because you do have very outstanding entrepreneurs, CEOs, Diddy, Jay-Z, etc., etc. But those are the few. The majority of us, you know, we're young, we make $1 million, and we
spend 950,000 of it.
Man, I think we spent $2 million.
Yeah.
We make $1 million and spend $2 million. So it was great. And always the center of the discussion is Belize and the journey. And you know what I would do as Minister of Finance to create wealth, to put Belizeans in a position where they are not as reliant on the state as has historically been the situation, but to create a society in which Belizeans can form their own wealth, can do for themselves, more entrepreneurship. But serious, not just the sporadic MSMEs that the government says that they will invest in and provide seed money for, but a culture of enabling any Belizean that wants to diversify their portfolio, whether they could be a professional in one regard and still have businesses in other regards.
Yeah.
I just feel that.
But this is not to downplay the importance of micro, small, and medium enterprises.
Absolutely not.
Because those are the backbone of our local economy.
I was saying that what the government has had sporadic investments in that area. But what I'm saying is that needs to be a culture, not just when we get a loan from the Saudi or we get a loan from, you know, the IDB or whoever else. It needs to be that all the commercial banks, or DFC, or national banks, everyone has to spend a certain amount of money, has to release a certain amount of liquidity into the pockets of all of those that want to start businesses and want to develop their businesses, want to expand their businesses. I feel that it's sporadic. It's not something that's cultural, where the money is there. Like obviously, the United States has a far greater economy than ours, but the mindset doesn't have to be any different. And maybe that's how we get our economy to grow, by making these investments.
So let's segue. I think it's the right transition to speak about the recent investment summit that was held here.
Yes.
You were out of the country last week, but I'm certain you would have had your reviews or your take on the summit itself and what it meant in terms of providing an investment climate for Belizeans and for others abroad who may want to spend some money in Belize.
You know, unfortunately, one of the interesting things about my colleagues in the States is they don't really deal with politicians. And I am actually the carve-out because I'm not necessarily a politician. I am from the music industry, the entertainment industry. And so that investment festival was for everyone. Whereas with the Briceño administration, it has been a pattern that they do business with who they want to do business with. They create an enabling environment for who they pick and choose. And so the investment summit is quite flawed, and we protested the investment summit as well as Andre Perez and just the overall state of Belize. Because again, you can't have an investment summit when two of your biggest investors in this country, two of your biggest national investors, Mr. Mike Feinstein and Mr. Michael Ashcroft, have been railroaded. How could you have an investment summit and be taken seriously? The Briceño administration is really a joke when you look at creating that climate where investors have confidence. And if we don't start with our own investors, how can we convince the multinationals? But if you want to go to the multinationals, I have never met anyone from Vulcan, but just looking at the way they were treated as a multinational, the way they were maligned, the way that cabinet members treated them with such contempt, did not even want to meet with them, did not want to hear anything, no due process. And this is one of the biggest multinationals in the world. So how could you say that we're open for business?
They've had a record. Vulcan has had a record that is not necessarily the squeakiest of the clean in terms of the countries in which they have operated in, and the fact that, you know, for instance, in Mexico, you have residents who were, you know, hard done by, in a manner of speaking, in terms of the environmental consequences of work that was done there, and that's just one jurisdiction.
Well, again, I believe there was a disagreement with the president of Mexico, and when you're negotiating, sometimes, you know, these types of propagandas are put forward in order to get the upper hand on the person with whom you are negotiating. But as far as the State Department is concerned, and different regional colleagues that I have spoken to, there was no illicit or corrupt practices when it came to Vulcan. And when it comes to the environment, that is always a controversial issue, and what we have to do is mitigate national development with the protection of our environment. But then we've seen the government go out of their way to pass an illegal, corrupt, definitive agreement in the case of Portico that you just heard the WWF head come out and say no way, no how could they support that, could they endorse that, and talk about how that would destroy our mangroves, which is what we are here to do to protect. So the government has, again, we want consistency. The government has been inconsistent. The government has not been open for business for everyone. The government has relied on the historical cronyism, nepotism, favoritism to do business, and that's not what we want.
All right, so let's bring it back a little bit. You guys filed a permit to protest in San Pedro.
Yes.
That would have been on the days of the International Investment Summit 2023.
Yes.
That application was rejected by the Commissioner of Police, and his words were, why choose those specific days to protest in San Pedro, seeing that foreigners would be there, and he felt that it was a tactic to not only embarrass the government, but it would also be an embarrassment to foreigners that came. What do you say regarding that?
The government is an embarrassment. As I just explained to you, how embarrassing is it to have one of the richest man, the richest investor in the country, the other richest investor in the country, with projects worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they can't get a pathway to their investment. That's not open for business. And then when you hear the government talk about Portico, oh, we're not there to stop Portico, they make every excuse and every reason for the Portico project to happen. And that's not a healthy investment climate. Investment is supposed to be just as the justice system. You hold the scales and you have to be blind, and whoever can proceed and succeed with their investment, it's up to them whether they lose or they win. It's not up to the government to say, oh, well, we don't think this will work. How can we make this work? That is what will be a Shyne Barrow UDP administration policy. How can we make it work? And if we can't make it work after exhausting every possible remedy, then fine. But that is not what we're getting. And so that is an embarrassment to our society. When we had a leader of the opposition in John Briceño who promised that he would come in and he would not have any favor, he would not pick and choose. You look at Mike Feinstein. Mike Feinstein is a long life PUP, admittedly, donated tens of millions of dollars to the PUP. And what his government has done is try to malign him in favor of someone else. And all I'm saying is we have to be fair. And so if you're going to promote investment, to me all that was a puppy show. If you can't find solutions for your biggest investors, national investors, then what are you going to do for the foreigners? All the foreigners will do is get set up to come here, and as has been accused, unless you give 10%, unless you give 20% to some government minister, your project is not going to go anywhere. So it's business as usual.
Let's circle the wagons. Let's go back again.
And just one thing as far as the protest, yes, we want to highlight these things to the world, to our country.
So it was intentional
Of course,
to choose that day.
of course. We were protesting the investment summit, as well as Andre Perez, who has been accused of sexual assault and still sits in the cabinet and has not been relieved of his position as area representative.
Here's my first question then. From the onset, do you believe that it should be within the purview of the Commissioner of Police to determine what makes for a good reason for protest versus what isn't? Because when an application is made, essentially he's the one who has the final say as to whether it flies or won't fly. Yes. And in this case, he rejected the request.
I don't believe that any government agency should be able to deny a request to protest. I believe it shouldn't even be a request, it should be a notice, so that the government agency, in this instance, the Belize Police Department, can prepare for the protest. I don't think in a democracy, in a strong democracy, the people's right to express their disappointment, their disgust with anything in society. Might not be the government, you might want to protest anything that is happening in our society. And the Commissioner of Police does not have that right. And he was just pandering to his political bosses. And as he always does, he barks loud, but his bite doesn't exist, because he said that he was going to arrest the protesters and he would not let us protest. And we were prepared for that. You know, if I was in the country, I would have gone. Kudos to my party chairman and my vice chairman and everyone that gathered there. And we were prepared to be arrested. That's democracy. We were protesting peacefully. As you saw, they blocked the bridge so that we could not get to the establishment where the protest was taking place. We weren't protesting the establishment. We were protesting Andre Perez, we were protesting John Briceño, and we were protesting the lack of investor-friendly climate that has taken over Belize. It's actually investor hostile.
No. The protest nonetheless, and these are my words and my description as seeing something as blatantly obvious, was for all intents and purposes a colossal failure. I mean, it's one of those situations where you can't get around that. I don't know if there was a communication breakdown between yourself or your office and the Standard Bearer for Belize Rural South upfront as to why it transpired in the manner in which it did, but it did not have the effect or the intended effect of what you would have wanted. Let's go there. What happened in terms of yourself and Jazlia Zweta?
What is your
when you're protesting, you're
what is your litmus? What is your measurement of
when
failure
you're protesting, you're attempting to send a loud message to whomever you're protesting against.
Yes.
In this case, the fact that you had to, well, your party, you were absent. The fact that your party had to muster at the last minute a few supporters from Belize City to go to San Pedro to pull this off, when you have an entire constituency of several thousand people that are being led by an executive and a standard bearer, and to have it collapse in the manner in which it did, I'm asking you, what took place there? Was there a communication breakdown? Was there a philosophical, fundamental difference between what you wanted to do and what the executive of BRS wanted to do?
Well, to be fair, initially when we were strategizing and planning the protest, we only intended to put 50 people there. You were out there. The estimates I got back was 200. Your colleague Jules Vasquez says 100. Whenever he says 100, that means it's double of what he says, because anything that Shyne Barrow does, he will try to downplay and minimize. You were out there. So I don't know.
I wasn't. I had a colleague of mine out there.
Yeah.
But he's fairly good with the numbers and he provided proper coverage nonetheless.
Yes, so it wasn't a few people. It was over 100 people if you want to be conservative and you want to grade me stiff. I have 200. Well, let's say 100 to 200. Initially, we only planned 50. The reflection is not a collapse on me or the party. It is a reflection of the now removed standard bearer. That is why she's no longer there. And even the delegates and the executive members that we spoke to when we were meeting about this said, we'll tell you the truth. You know, Belize Rural South is in shambles, and we don't even know if we'll be able to get 10 people out there. And so again, there are many questions as far as that is concerned, as to what happened, who influenced, who interfered, who pressured, who was compromised. I know that we had a vision. We, not me, regardless of the narrative that is being spun. When you see Alberta August, who is the most senior, one of the most senior members of this party since Esquivel, who never tells me what I want to hear, and in fact would tell everyone and anyone however he feels, even if it is in conflict with me. When you see him on the front line in San Pedro protesting, that has to be indicative of the collective agreement by the leadership executive that this was the right thing to do. Now, when it comes to the response of the standard bearer, that is why she was removed, because we cannot have a standard bearer who is compromised, who may be in conflict, their personal interests, their professional interests, because everybody has, most people have a life outside of politics. And so we can't have anyone that is conflicted. And what I'm saying to you is, as the opposition, we were doing what we were supposed to do, which is protest at world summits, at the United Nations, at all of these types of events, COP. Historically, people go out there, the G20, people go out there, and that is the platform they use to protest.
Allow me to interject.
So I am explaining, you're asking me what happened. So I am telling you what happened. We were determined that this was the right thing to do, and I believe due to compromise, due to conflict of interest, due to external influences, that the standard bearer was not able to deliver, refused to deliver. She did not issue a statement against Andre Perez, who is accused of sexual assault. We need to remember that. The conversation has now shifted to a collapse, which is why she was removed, because how are we discussing anything other than a hostile investor, climate, an era representative that is accused of sexual assault and using his office to have personal gain and self-enrichment.
Okay, so here I go. Your father was famous for popularizing the term optics as part of Belizean language, right? 2 weeks ago, you took the stage at the Bird's Isle, and you were
more than 2 weeks. It's
2 or 3 weeks.
August
you took the stage at the Bird's Isle, and your leadership was endorsed. It gave the facade, perhaps, that the party was united and that everybody was rallying behind you. Several weeks later, you have someone or a group of people who decided...
One person.
All right, one person who decided that she wasn't with the program.
The Belize Rural South, the San Pedro Kikaka executive remains. One person resigned and one person was removed, and those were the people that led the insurrection in Belize Rural South.
The point that I'm making nonetheless is...
And if you go to their page, the same page that was widely covered when they put out a statement against us, which triggered this optics that you're talking about, now there's a statement there that reaffirms their commitment to the party leader and the leadership, but nobody will talk about that.
But the point that I'm making is simple.
Yes.
It shows that the party is not as united as it appears to be or as it wants to put forward, that you still have people who are not necessarily in line with the overall objective of what you're trying to accomplish. To me, that's all that says. If all of you are in agreement that you're marching in one direction and somebody decides, you know what, I'll flake and I will defect and I'll do my own thing or we're not upon that or whatever, it does not bode well for a united front.
That is a fair question. And what I will say is we have 31 constituencies and 31 standard bearers and executives. And we will have these types of disruptions. But what we will not have is any tolerance of such insurrection and such treason. That's what it really is, because we are allowed to disagree. I'm sure that Channel 5 has disagreements behind the scenes, editorial, whatever it is. I'm sure that there are discussions and, you know, some people may feel some way and others another. But that doesn't make it to Channel 7 or to Love News or to the media. So all organizations are diverse and not expected to be homogeneous. Thus, you will have people who vehemently disagree with what the majority may be saying. But we as an organization, as the only other mass party in this country, celebrating 50 years, I must tell you, this is our 50th anniversary, September 27th. We have a responsibility to conduct ourselves in the highest manner of professionalism and confidentiality for the sake of Belize. So what was done by two people, it was not the entire executive, it was not the entire people on Belize Rural South, it was two people who have now been removed. It is regrettable. We as an executive and a national party council moved swiftly to remove that cancer because we had anticipated that there may be people who would do such things. If you recall, we have had our ups and downs and turbulence since we became the opposition. And so we passed certain resolutions. We passed certain resolutions to protect against this type of treason and insurrection, because this is not about, oh, this is democracy, so I could disagree. Yes, you can. But we have an agreement that when we disagree, that disagreement remains in-house. It does not go outside. And everyone was warned, if it goes outside, then you will be expelled. In this case, the gentle lady was not expelled, she was just removed. But now that she's gone on a tirade, certainly expulsion has to be the next step. So which brings me to
this then. We've never been privy to the inner workings of the National Party Council.
Excuse me.
We've covered as members of the media from the outside looking in. There was a leaked audio recording yesterday. All 24 minutes of it in terms of the NPC that was held.
The NPC was like 2 hours.
Well,
that was just...
I'm speaking specifically to the heated exchange and the subsequent vote. Allow me to finish.
The entire thing was probably heated. It's always heated.
Okay, allow me to finish, right? So, in the mix of all of that, again, and I'm speaking to what appears now to be a deep fracture, a chasm within the party itself, where yourself and the member for Albert were back and front because you brought in, or you insinuated her daughter's involvement in this situation.
Be careful, because I'm taking legal action. Go back and listen to that recording. I did not say anybody's name, sir. I did not say anybody's name. I did not say anybody's gender. Okay. Who knows, knows, right? But you cannot...
But there was an inference being made.
Yes, but sir, if someone is guilty of something and they know what the allegations and the imputations are, that is what everyone is saying. Do you think that there's a conflict there? Do you think that there's a compromise? That had to be stated, but I did that in a way in which I was very general. I said, in a personal relationship with someone that works for an interested party. That is what I said. And she outed her daughter. That has nothing to do with me. So that is the reality of it.
But when you look at the entire situation and how that unfolded and played out, there are some who would criticize you and say, well, there he goes again. That's a heavy-handed way of dealing with a situation, as opposed to perhaps a more rational and level-headed approach.
How is that irrational?
Well, there's a loud back and forth between yourself and the area.
So it's okay for Alberts to scream at the top of her lungs? That's okay?
Well, she took it directly personal.
Oh, but I take directly personal anyone who is treasonous and betraying our party. Why is that so difficult for people to understand? Everyone has their personal interests. I am the leader of the great United Democratic Party. I have invested my life savings, millions of dollars into this party, will invest millions more, and my sweat equity, my family, my entire life for my party. And I am trying to lead my party to victory. That's a very personal undertaking. So it's okay for the member to feel aggrieved, but it's not okay for me to feel aggrieved, and it's not okay for me in a democracy. We could have went to the MPC and just vote. Nobody have nothing to say, vote. And then you may have criticized us to say, well, nobody had a voice. Everybody has a voice. I have a voice too. And I was making my case to my party colleagues so that they can have all the facts to consider, because there was a narrative being spun that there should be forgiveness and there should be second chance, even though everyone had been put on notice that if you do certain things, you would be expelled from the party. That was made clear because of what we had been going through as a party, and we were trying to turn the corner, and we could not afford to revert. And what happens is there is a history of politicians who are bought and paid for, who can be compromised, who can be exposed to treason, and at any given time, when it serves the PUP, they can disrupt. And so they need to know that when they do that, they will be removed from the party immediately. So that had to be presented to the colleagues so they understood what was happening here, that this was no unilateral, arbitrary decision to just get rid of one of our standard bearers. I am the one that asked her to get involved in politics. I am the one that has been investing in her and trying to develop her as a politician. But I have been around long enough to know when someone is compromised. So we needed to put it all on the table. So I totally reject and resent you saying that anything is irrational. When you are passionate, when you are making your argument, you are allowed to do that. I did not use any obscenities. There were no personal attacks. It is a fact. Everything that I said is a fact as far as who's in personal relationships and who works for who. And it is something that as leaders of the party, we must consider, because we are trying to analyze and assess where the infiltration is coming from. Because there was some infiltration. You talk to anybody. What sense does it make to not attack and exploit this situation with Andre Perez? He's unfit to be ERA representative, but here you are telling me about me being irrational.
But here's
and
the thing.
excuse me, sir, and you know, me being heavy-handed, and the fact that there's more outrage about your personal interests, but not the same outrage when it comes to someone demeaning the office of ERA representative, someone potentially committing a crime against a woman. When we talk about all the gender equality, I'm just saying, where is the outrage? Where is the outrage?
All of that is now lost
by design. By design.
But here is the thing.
Isani, I am telling you that is by design. The most salient point
was
is I'm
made by
telling
Hugo
you.
Pat. The most salient point was made by Hugo Pat in his humble contribution to Saturday's discussion, where he's saying, look, 3 weeks ago, Andre Perez had his goose cooked, essentially, and you had all the ammo and everything to go at him.
And they didn't.
All of that has diverted back to an issue
Isani,
within your party.
That's not what he said.
No, that's not what he said, but that's the effect of it. That is that is my interpretation of what he was saying.
This is not KTV the remix, man. Come on. Come on.
Not,
you're the remix. You're the remix.
But it's fair to understand that that was what was being said.
Sir, you're remixing what he said. What he said is that Belize, the standard bearer, missed an opportunity. And that's what he has consistently said.
The party.
No, the party didn't.
Has
the party
perhaps blown that opportunity.
The party has been working, and that's why we have removed the standard bearer, because the standard bearer is not up to the task, and we will move forward.
My question to you, Shyne, leader of the opposition, is this. Was there any tensions between you and Miss Azweta or the party in general, between Miss Azweta and the party prior to this protest?
No, I believe Ms. Azweta, like I said, I'm the one that got her to run. I've invested in her greatly, not just monetarily, but always flying to San Pedro to meet with her. I took her with me to the 4th of July celebration with the Americans. I'm always promoting her and you know, supporting her lifestyle, and I've always been one of, you know, her greatest supporters, in my view. However, this is not personal for me. The party comes first. If I suspect that your interests conflict with what is best for the party, then we have to part ways. It doesn't matter who it is. And that is all that happened. I believe that there was a compromise there was a conflict there, because the actions don't make any political sense.
How do
you talk about being irrational. It is not irrational. What could possibly be unreasonable and irrational and heavy-handed about someone violating resolutions that were put in place to protect the party? That is swift, decisive leadership.
But
Because
it's also
we cannot
being
afford.
criticized as autocratic.
It would be no. Sir, autocratic is. I would just remove her with no process.
Well,
the
that's one of the
central
allegations that is
executive,
being
sir. The central executive met, and again, that's why I'm taking legal action. Mr. Sweater, Jorge Aldana, who used to be the writer for Belize Times, who portrays himself as a UDP, but was an editor for Belize Times, worked with John Briceño. I won't tell you the intimate details of his interaction with the Briceño family, but you have a bunch of compromised people that are undermining the best interests of the party. But when you talk about autocracy, sir, this was brought to the MPC by one of our regional leaders. All of us were outraged. All of us were upset. And when we were examining everything, first we had to make sure that she put it on her Facebook, that she authorized the release when they condemned the protest. So we went through a process, and we met as a central executive. We invited members of the Belize Rural South Executive and the Standard Bearer to our meeting. And everyone in the Belize Rural South Executive said that they were not consulted and they did not agree with any public statement against the party. That is democracy. That is not autocracy. So that means that the Standard Bearer took a unilateral decision to attack the party against the party constitution. And so the central executive, after hearing from her own executives who said that they did not authorize that, the secretary, in fact, said that she wanted to cry and she asked that it be retracted immediately, and they refused. But the bottom line is there was due process. The central executive, minus two people, recommended that Mr. Sweater not be expelled as the penalties allow us to do, but be removed as Standard Bearer. Only her. And I would like to move on because we've given for please, Isani.
You have 2.5 years now before the elections are called in 2025.
We will have a better Standard Bearer, far better Standard Bearer. I can't tell you who it is. Far better Standard Bearer, equipped up to the task. Our mayoral candidate and slate remains intact, and we will continue the work.
I want to move things over to the state of economy. One of the most recent, I'd say, ways that the government has tried to tackle inflation is by increasing controlled goods in Belize. And we saw some feedback from the Chamber of Commerce and Industry saying that that may not be the best idea. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it starts not when it makes it into the grocery stores, but it starts from importation. And I definitely think that there's a great exploitation on some of these business people that are marking up these prices ridiculously. It's beyond inflation price to really just exploitation prices. So whatever could be done to curtail that, I support it. But I don't think that starts in the grocery store. I think it starts importation, and it could continue in the grocery store. So you can't allow the people who the grocers purchase from to mark up, and then expect that they would not be able to transfer that cost to the consumers. So I believe that it should have been done at the point of wholesale purchase and then continue on to where it is
Do you believe
sold to the consumers.
Do you believe that the situation is perhaps exacerbated by the fact that there was a recent hike in the cost of fuel at the pumps? Because normally, when the price of fuel goes up, people will say, well, the cost of importation is directly pegged to that, and then the consumer has to be the one to absorb that increase. So we're looking at a situation where the government has put certain things or systems in place to be able to deal with price gouging and the overall inflation matter. But on the other hand, quietly raise the cost of fuel. Do you believe that that makes the problem worse?
Energy is the genesis of all of our problems when it comes to these high gas prices, the highest ever, historically, in Belize. And this is merely a way for the government to pay its bills, straight up, no cap. They're just using the cost of fuel to pay bills.
Yeah.
When what they promised was the exact opposite. And I gave the solution in the House of Representatives. I presented the solution on one of the other morning shows recently, and it goes again to point of purchase. Puma or whoever the entity is that the government, that all fuel entities buy from, they're allowed to just give an invoice. And I think they call it spot market. They purchase and they just give you an invoice. Their invoice does not reflect the market. So when it goes up, when it goes down, it doesn't matter. They just give us an invoice. So I believe that arrangement needs to be amended and negotiated, because the prices have fallen dramatically in the region and globally. You can no longer use the war in Ukraine as a reason for high fuel prices, because the prices in the United States, the prices in different countries, they have fallen dramatically. And so why hasn't that happened in Belize? Because they use an excuse, well, we're still using the fuel that we purchased from this point ago, or when Puma got it, it was at this price and they're still selling that. The problem is, as I said, my understanding is they don't give us an invoice based on the market. So if the market is down, we won't get that. If the market is up, we won't get that. They just give us a flat rate, and I think that needs to change.
Belize is celebrating its 42nd anniversary. We're in the month of September. The United Democratic Party will also be celebrating its 50th anniversary, also in the month of September. Where are you guys as a political organization, and where do you see the UDP going in the next few years under your leadership?
Well, where we are is ready to form the next government. And where we are is fit and in fighting form so that we can present solutions when we form the next government. Because I think what happened to the Briceño administration, they were so used to being in opposition for 13 years, they just wanted to get into government. And so rather than spend the 13 years coming up with solutions that they would definitely implement upon forming government, there was just a fight to get into government. And so they got there and was like, finally we're here. But the difficult task of governing was never considered. And so what we are doing different is we are ready to implement policies and legislation that will transform Belize forever, because there has to be a complete overhaul of different systems, dismantling of different systems. And, you know, I use the word revolution, and some people said, well, revolution takes time. Revolution is after just doing the basic things, and this government is not doing the basic things that it promised. High energy prices. Briceño promised that he had the solution, but instead he just got land in San Pedro to open a gas station, him or his brother. He still owns a gas station. He sold his gas station in Belize City, and he's benefiting, his family is benefiting tremendously from high energy prices. So voila, there you have it. When it comes to citizen security, the government promised a drastic, dramatic turnaround. This government promised. Citizen security was a part of its Plan Belize platform, and we have seen anything but. We continue to see these gruesome murders. We continue to see a lack of reverence for the authorities in citizen security. We continue to see an absent minister of police, a commissioner of police that is attorney general for everything that goes wrong in his department rather than taking responsibility. We continue to see a prime minister who is the chair of the National Security Council absent himself and relieve himself of any responsibility for our disastrous citizen security situation.
As we are about to run out of time, I just want to bring up one last topic, which is the municipal elections that is coming up. We know that the United Democratic Party has aspiring candidates that have presented themselves for the municipal elections. So let's talk about that.
Yes, so we celebrating 50 years. Again, we talk about all of the negative things, which is one particular negative incident in over a year that we have moved swiftly to rid ourselves of the cancer. But let's talk about the great things. Even in San Pedro, we have a great mayoral candidate in Will Alamia and a great team along with him. In Belize City, we have Dr. Nelma Jones and a great slate there. In the Twin Tongues, Santa Elena, San Ignacio, we have the great Mayor Trapp and his slate. In PG, we have Brother Cranka. In Dangriga, we have Brother Lucas. In Belmopan City, we have my dear sister, Jacqueline Burns. We have a great slate in Benke, Brother Tessicum. So we have great slates all over this country, and I do believe that we will win at least 7 municipalities. And that is why it's so important as we celebrate 50 years of the great United Democratic Party and we make our way back to government. It is not easy. The people that hold the reins of government are not going to relinquish government just like that. So they will plant moles in our party. They will have compromised actors in our party to try to bring us down. And it is very important for us to rid ourselves of anyone that is going to stand between the United Democratic Party and government. So we are focused. We are united in that we will not let anything interfere with the work that we have to do, which is the work of the people. And we have been the winningest party post-independence. No one has won more at the polls than the United Democratic Party, and that is because we have been better for Belize. We have always done better for Belize when it comes to managing the economy, when it comes to the public health care system. Everything has been better under the UDP, and we plan to demonstrate that in March of 2024 when we take at least 7 municipal slates, because people are very frustrated with the PUP government. People are disappointed. You see in PG, again, I commend you because the media has made much of the different division in the PUP, because you have PUP councillors in PG that have accused the PUP mayor of corruption. In Belize City, you have a deputy mayor running against his mayor because he's telling you that the people need a change, and basically his mayor is not cutting it. He needs to go. So this is a part of politics, but even the PUPs are disappointed and disgusted with the PUPs, and it is time for change for the better, and the UDP presents that.
I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Happy 42. I probably will not.
Yes, happy
I will
42.
not be back before then. But
Leader of the opposition.
Happy 42nd Independence Day to both of you,
Yes.
to all the
Same
people
to you, sir.
in Belize, all of my regional leaders, deputy leaders, and all of our supporters.
Yes, and we look forward
and
to having
Mesopotamia.
you. Yes, man,
Yes.
that's included.
Yes, yes.
We look forward to having you on the set at future dates as well.
Yes.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it's all about preventing suicide in the workplace. Don't go away.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Available at Benny's. Quality and savings.
Caribbean Sprinter is proud to offer our best available rates to Belize residents online at sprinter.bz. Register today for our Sprinter Rewards program located on the resident section of our website. Skip the line when you book online with online check-in.
Carnival Association, Empire Entertainment, and Travelers Liquor presents the return of the last laps inside the Marion Jones Sporting Complex. It's all going down on Saturday, September 9th. That's right, on Carnival Day, where the carnival will be finishing inside the stadium for the last laps and the judging of the 9 competing bands. Come on out and cheer on your favorite band, and immediately thereafter, you get to get off the bleacher and come on onto the grounds for the first ever Rags and Flags party, featuring DJ Drea, all the way from Trinidad and Tobago, DJ Sambo, and it's all hosted by DJ Dixie and Yannicka Matthews. Giveaways will be fully loaded, and food and drinks will be on sale. Gates open from 3 p.m. and this party lasts until 8 p.m. It's the Rags and Flags party, Saturday, September 9th, inside the Marion Jones Sporting Complex. Marion Jones Sporting Complex. See you there. Start to shake the place.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Welcome back. We are having our second conversation for the morning, and this one is all about suicide awareness. As you know, the month of September is Suicide Awareness Month, but this morning we are here talking specifically about preventing suicide in the workplace. We are joined by two professionals. We have Shyne Gutierrez Lopez, and she is a registered clinical psychologist. Good morning. As well as Tina Cuellar, and she is a mental health therapist. Good morning, ladies, and welcome.
Thank you guys for having us.
I think it's so important for us to have this conversation. The entire conversation of mental health on its own is important. But a lot of times when we're talking suicide, it's often so sensitive that we tend to avoid it. Let's talk about why it's important to discuss this particular topic of suicide in the first place.
I think it's definitely, like you said, it's a sensitive topic. It's a topic that most people don't like to talk about. And when it does occur, there's a lot of whys. How? You know, how did I miss that cue? I think the summit that we're working on for Friday, it's really important because we're trying to educate the workplace on some of the cues and the signs to pick up on. Because a lot of times we think it looks a certain way. We think it looks dark, we think it looks like depression, but a lot of times people that commit suicide are functioning. They are happy-go-lucky, and when it does happen, it seems to come out of left field. And the workplace is where we spend a lot of our time. So being able to pick up on cues there is definitely very important.
So I love that you mentioned that there are signs. What are those signs that employers or colleagues should look out for if there may be a person that has suicidal ideations?
I think for the most part, Shyne can chime in, is that it's not black and white. No two persons will have the same signs. There are individuals that can go on with their day like nothing is wrong, and there are individuals that will or may start, you know, giving you a few cues about, you know, I wish I never met you, things get really hard. It varies, but it's not clear cut. I think one of the things that we definitely will be pushing is the importance of getting to know your employees, getting to know them on a familiar basis, that you can see when something is not as consistent as it used to be.
Yes, totally agree. And I want to just add in, one of our aim when we talk about prevention is not just to identify, but how do we create buffers so that people don't reach to that point where they're considering suicide. So what we want to try to encourage is having employee assistance programs to provide services for staff, to be able to have a culture where it's okay to talk about when things are not going well. And that could be with mental health. It could also be with financial things that are happening, because mental health, oftentimes we think it's only depression or anxiety, but there may be financial constraints that they're dealing with. There may be other life stressors that they're dealing with. And how do we create a culture where it becomes a norm to have these conversations? You know, culturally we like to say, leave your problems at the door, and then that person comes to the workplace and that's just a shell, right? And so how can companies create a place whereby, since we spend most of our time at that place, where it's encouraging that we could have these conversations, we could understand that having a mental health day is quite okay. We want to be able to encourage in terms of, if your employee needs certain services, how can they tap into your HR services that you offer? What are other benefits that you offer for the company? We want to be able to promote that, because when companies think about taking care of their employees, when they consider creating a preventative measure, it helps the company in terms of creating a good work culture. It also helps them with retention, because then the employee feels like, okay, this is a good workplace to work at. It also helps in terms of their own productivity, because then the employees feel as if, you know what, my employer doesn't just think about me in terms of dollar sign. It's like they also care about me as an individual. So that also improves their productivity. It creates a lifestyle whereby work could be more flexible, so the individual could be flexible, work could be flexible, and that also help in terms of the larger picture, in terms of it's less financial cost on the society and the company when we don't have to deal with the actual suicide itself. If we more prevent it, it also helps families in terms of how to be able to create that supportive environment. So pretty much what we want to do is to talk about suicide, yes, but how can we create a culture whereby that doesn't be the last resort a person have to be able to consider, because it has support within the workforce. And we're aiming particularly with the workforce because we want to also not wait until we see an increase of more increase, but also we are aware that people have passive suicidal ideation. And so that really is, they're not saying that they're going to commit suicide, or they're not saying they have an active plan to commit suicide, but they may say, if I don't get up tomorrow morning, I'll be quite okay with that, right? They're possibly having these thoughts whereby they're kind of okay with the idea of not being here. And so passively, we want to be able to curb that part from going from passive to actively in suicidal.
Because it can transition.
Yes. Perhaps there is a misconception in terms of people who either struggle with mental health issues, people who have suicidal thoughts in or around the workplace, and thinking or believing that the best channel or the best place to perhaps seek to address these issues is through the HR. But many HR departments and HR personnel may not necessarily be trained or adept at dealing with these kinds of issues. How do we get around that? Is it a situation where we perhaps have to bring in someone to be able to assist in a scenario such as that?
So that is the aim. We will provide employee assistance programs for some companies. And what we will be having at the summit is, apart from a panel discussion, we do have other professionals that will be presenting. For example, we have Dr. Sanders, who will be doing emotional intelligence in the workplace to help provide additional training for persons that will be attending. We have Ms. Nicolene Raymond, who will be talking about finances. Again, to be able to, they do different things within the mental, not just in the mental health field, but in other aspects that help. So we want to try to equip those who attend the summit to have those resources, to have an understanding of what's happening. So the panelists have mental health therapists, psychiatrists, financial advisors to be able to talk holistically about it. And then we'll break off into different training sessions to talk about what is suicide, to see what are some of the signs, but also to talk about what we are also seeing within the workplace, because we do provide employee assistance programs, how to be able to help what they already have. And for those companies who don't have a policy or a plan in place in terms of how to be able to support their staff, to connect with people who are in that space already, to start to create one so that they do have a policy in terms of how can they support their staff if they don't have one.
I want to ask, what would you recommend to coworkers or colleagues when it comes to providing support to a coworker that may be struggling with mental health, but doing so in a way that does not cross a boundary? Because as you mentioned, there oftentimes is the culture of leave your stress where you have at home before you reach the doors of your work. But we don't do that. We hold it in internally, and that bottles up, and in some way or another there's a burst. So in providing that support to our colleagues that need it, how can we do that without crossing a boundary?
I think one of the most important things a lot of people look for is just somebody to listen. I think a lot of times you really have to pay attention to yourself, how much you cut across people in the middle of what they're saying. So being an active listener is definitely one aspect, letting the person say what he or she wants to say. Another one, and this is always an easy one for me to remember and to help people learn, is whenever you start a sentence with well, at least you don't have it so bad, or at least you don't have this, that is the first indication that your level of empathy is not being given to that person. Because what that statement does is it essentially minimizes, dismisses what that person is going through.
You're pacifying essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not a comparison game. When somebody comes to you and allows themselves to be vulnerable, first of all, that's extremely brave, because we don't all do it. It takes a lot of guts and a lot of energy. So just allowing a safe space without minimizing their feelings and their emotions is important. Shyne touched on something really important. Most organizations have an EAP program, but I don't think all employees know it. And so it's being able to touch base with your HR to see what services are offered. And like she said, the summit's going to give you a different array of services that as an HR and as a company you can offer your employees. Because essentially, if we can get healthy employees at a place where they feel safe and they know they're taken care of, it ultimately helps with retention for any company. So it is in the best interest for our company. So I think being an active listener, making sure you're not starting your sentence with at least, are good signs for colleagues.
Yeah.
That's interesting because in our regular conversation around the workplace, that's often the first thing. All right, it's not as bad as you think, or at least, but see, that speaks to perhaps a culture or a mindset that most of us have and most of us carry with. I go back to what Sabrina had mentioned earlier, where there is this prevailing thought that you're supposed to leave your worries behind. You come to work, you shut that off, and you're here to be productive.
But it bottles up.
Yeah, it's difficult for anyone to be productive when you have something that's weighing on your mind or in your heart, or you're not 100% there in presence of mind. The challenge for me though is that some people require counseling, some people require therapy, and oftentimes we in the workplace don't really see that because we're so consumed with getting things done that it completely flies below the radar.
Meeting our targets, yeah.
I mean, it definitely can, and I think it goes back to the avenue of us saying it's about also knowing your employees a little bit better.
Yeah.
Spending that time to see when Isani is being stressed. You can see little triggers, little cues. Let me check in. And there are going to be times, like you said, it does require counseling, it does require therapy, and that's when hopefully if we get these HRs equipped, you can do that referral and that person can seek the service they need, and that's helpful to keep somebody's mental health in order.
Perhaps this question that I'm about to ask is not related to the employer, but to maybe the workaholic that is viewing right now. What are the advice that you would give to persons to have a work-life balance over that just constant jamming and focusing on your work? And how can that help your mental health?
Well, sorry. I think for a workaholic, nothing that we see right now will still click for them. Why? Because working so hard is serving a purpose, right? And working so hard sometimes is a way for them to cope, which is also
like an escape mechanism.
An escape mechanism, yes, which is also something that's why we want to be able to encourage in terms of how to start to make that shift, right? So that when you do have employees, for a company, they may say, well, that's really well that we have a workaholic because they're going on the grind, they're working more than the hours needed.
But then burnout happens.
But then burnout happens, but also that also makes it difficult in times when people are experiencing where they need the support. It's hard for them to get it because they don't know how to be in that position to ask now, because they are oftentimes the person that get things done. So how do you come and have that conversation that I need support right now, right? And so we want to be able to try to break that culture in terms of understanding the purpose of it. So before we even try to change what you're doing, it's what's causing you to need to do that to make it as effective, so that then we could create a real goal, that we have strategies that will meet that real target, because they will hear it and they will agree, but the change in the behavior won't necessarily happen if the purpose that it's serving is really their driving force. And Isani, I think you mentioned something earlier in terms of leaving your problems at the door, and the work culture whereby we tend to always say, well, if you may think that bad, something else. And that's why a lot of time having a safe space is not just a physical space, it's the psychological safety of it, in terms of, is it safe for me to say what I'm really experiencing, because I already know more or less what the culture would be like. And that's why when sometimes a person may die by suicide, what tends to happen is, well, why he or she didn't come and say anything?
They didn't feel it was
I would
safe.
have been there for
That
him
is
or
so
her,
true.
but they didn't feel safe, and it's a felt experience.
That is so true.
Unintentionally, while we may say certain things to try to comfort or try to dissuade them of why their experience is not bad, like Tina said, that becomes dismissive for them, and like, okay, I can't even start to explain because I already know what you're going to say, and
Yeah.
that's what I don't
You have this
need right
idea
now.
in your mind of what the reaction
Exactly.
will be. And of course, with battling with your mental health situation, you already are carrying these negative thoughts. So even if that person may have responded positively, your mind is telling you everything possibly negative as the outcome. I want to ask you guys, as mental health practitioners, do you see a lot of cases where persons come to you and ask for assistance related to suicidal ideations that connect to the workplace?
I think we were just talking about some statistics outside, and there has been an increase over the last 2 years, you said? And I mean, we were literally just talking about it, and we're talking about how COVID might have been a big trigger for a lot of people. We had to sit still.
Yeah.
You know, we had no choice but to.
Some people are unemployed, some people are dealing with death related to COVID, they don't know how to cope, and so on.
And one of the big things, a lot of statistics across, I think, countries say that women have more attempt, men have more success. And a lot of times, going back to COVID, men are wired to be providers. They are wired to feel like they need to take on the financial brunt.
Yeah.
And so with COVID and with, you know, layoffs, half salary and all of that, it does make us wonder, whether that had anything to do with it. I think another thing that we were highlighting as we prepared was that a lot of times people like to feel like an individual is strong and resilient, and we kind of carry it as a badge of honor. Oh, Isan is so strong, he's got this, we don't have to worry about him. He's good, he doesn't need anybody to check in with him. And when you become that person for people, no one checks in on you.
Yeah.
People go to you, people depend on you, people lean on you, but what about your needs?
But
What
that's
about
that's when you realize how lonely it is when, when you're in that space, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, to answer your question too as well, I think a lot of times part of it too is sometimes when people get to that point of suicide, what people don't realize is it's almost like they're wearing a glasses that they're no longer seeing the world the way we see it. For them, they view themselves as a burden. For them, they view it as a way to release their family and friends of themselves.
Yeah.
And so it is a very dark place, and it's a very lonely place.
Yeah.
But it's really also important sometimes to make sure you're checking in on that quote-unquote strong friend, that quote-unquote resilient friend.
Or happy,
or
that overly happy friend.
Or that happy friend.
Because I remember looking at some statistics of celebrities that would commit suicide, and a lot of them are comedians. What do you say, Ms. Tina, to a loved one that you know may be having suicidal ideations? How do you approach that conversation with your loved one?
I think the first thing is definitely you want to try to get your loved one help. And I think being present, eye contact, body language, all of those things matter. Making yourself as best as you can a safe space for that person. Meaning, if he or she says something, I'm not going to roll my eye. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, you did that again, like we're here again. You're going to be present and allow that person a safe space that whatever he or she wants to unload, though I may not understand, and the reality is you probably don't, I want to be safe enough that she or he can tell me, and we can work together towards getting the necessary help.
Are there any stigmas associated with suicide? Do you believe in Belize?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
What would you say are those stigmas?
I think a lot of time when people hear someone die by suicide, it's always, well, that person is probably weak or selfish. And when a person reaches that point, it's usually they feel a sense of hopelessness in the different areas of their life. That has to be the most hardest, loneliest place to be. And it's hard, you know, people say, well, you have to think about the future, you have to think about your kids if you have kids, you have to think about the family and the impact. But what's happening in your brain at that point, you're no longer able to think clearly. You know, you're no longer able to think from a clear mind, to think about all option A, B, C, D to the end of the alphabet. You're pretty much in a space where all front of you just look like there's no hope, and all what you're feeling is intense. It's almost like your body's broken up, and you could feel it physically on a regular basis. So every day you get up, your body is in sorry, and you're feeling that consistently on a regular basis, and it's like you can't, for some people it's like, I can't even explain this to you, that this is what my body is experiencing on a regular basis. And you may see me smile, I may laugh, I could give jokes, I could help you in all of those things, but that takes so much effort for me to even be present for you.
Yeah.
And it comes a point where I don't even have the energy to do that anymore. So, you know, it really is a hard place to be. And so if you notice, and usually, like Tina said, checking on your strong friends as well, checking on those persons that's always being there. But I think it's also getting with the conversation of talking about suicide, because the more we talk about it, the less taboo it becomes.
Mhm.
And it also makes it comfortable that when someone is expressing these thoughts, is we could ask the question, are you having suicidal thoughts? And being able to brace ourselves for whatever that answer is. Because when we ask that question, sometimes that person just feel relieved that someone is okay to ask me that question, and they could actually say yes. And sometimes it's just that conversation to air it is what they needed at that particular point. So even having the conversation could be preventative, because it creates that space that I am not afraid of your dark space.
Yeah.
And I want to witness your dark space. And that's what we want in life. We want to be able to be seen and felt, so that we don't have to carry the burden on our own. But when we feel like we're at a space where we have to carry it on our own because we're worried about how everybody else will be responding, then the burden becomes even more heavier for that person holding it. So we want to start to have conversations about suicide. We want people to be comfortable enough to start to talk about it, so that way when they notice someone is in that space, or someone start to express that they could have the conversation, and then they could say, well, let's go to a mental health professional. Let's go to the resources, and I'll be there with you, rather than saying, don't think about that, don't do that, don't.
And I mean, let's not even get started about the stigma that exists with going to a mental health practitioner. That's a whole other conversation. So I guess we could close this conversation by going back to the summit that you guys will be having. What can we expect? How can we attend? And the dates as well.
Okay, so on Friday, September 8th, we're having the Suicide Prevention Summit in the Workplace at the University of the West Indies Auditorium. It starts at 8:30 till 3 o'clock. In the morning, we have a panel discussions with a list of mental health professionals. I'm missing anyone. Mental health professionals. We have financial consultants with us, just to be able to have that conversation about suicide. Like I said in the beginning, we want to have a diverse group to be able to talk. We have persons from the public and private sector, because we also want to be able to not only cater to the private community, but also for the public sector as well. So we want to have that conversation where private and public talk about suicide within the workspace. And then we will have presenters talk about what is suicide. So I'll be presenting about suicide and its complexity. We have Dr. Sanders talking about emotional intelligence. And then we have Miss Nicolene Raymond, who will be talking about financial
perhaps financial challenges.
And how to be able to manage it, right? And when at the end of it, we have a yoga session by Miss Bryce, to be able to, after our heavy conversations of learning and doing different things, is to be able to deep breathe and to be able to relax.
Go back into that space.
Go back
Is
into
there a
that
theme
space.
this year for this year's Suicide Prevention Month?
I believe there is.
Okay.
But what we're focusing on
is the workplace.
Yeah. It's a full day event. Lunch will be provided, as well as an eye care package for each person that will be attending.
All right. Well, ladies, yes.
And I forget to mention, the cost is $150 for the entire day. You could call 636-0823 to be able to register. If you follow us on Facebook or on LinkedIn, there is also a link where you could just register online as well.
All right. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. If you have any last words, you can use this opportunity to mention that now, since it's Suicide Awareness Month, from yourselves, particularly as mental health practitioners.
I think pay attention to your loved ones. I think we said this earlier, but it is really important. Check in on your strong friends. I mean, the ones you label strong, the ones you label resilient. It's it's always good to just do that check-in on how they're going, but also with the anticipation of really being ready for that answer and being willing to create the safe space for whatever that response may or may not be.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. All right, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, it's all about BTB's Live Proudly Belizean Photo Contest. Don't go away.
Smart introduces Real Unlimited Postpaid Plans, providing customers with unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data. Now that's a real great deal. With Smart Plus, Share 1 and 2, and Enterprise 1 and 2 plans, you can talk as much as you want, text as much as you want, and for the first time ever in Belize, you can enjoy unlimited data with your postpaid plan. So come in and sign up for an unlimited postpaid plan and enjoy limitless possibilities. In addition, other plans such as the Flex Junior, Choice, and Select have been boosted with a lot more talk, text, and data, providing you with the best value for your budget. Be unlimited with Smart. It's time to power your dollar with Smart.
My Social Security. Your direct online access to all your Social Security information. 360 view of all your Social Security information. Registration services, benefits, contributions, and employer services at your fingertips. Enjoy all the new features with your My Social Security account. Register with SSB. Submission of benefit claims. Submission of contribution statements. View contribution record. Enjoy all your My Social Security feature at ssbportal.org.bz. Social Security at your fingertips.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes, go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, because news is now everywhere, all the time, and so are we.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
Welcome back. We are having our third segment for the morning, and this one is all about the Belize Tourism Board's Live Proudly Belizean Photo Contest. We are joined by BTB's Marketing Communications representative, Felicia Pelayo. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. Now, I know that this competition or this contest is just one of the activities that is taking place under the Belizean Traveler campaign experience that the BTB is rolling out. So perhaps we can talk a bit about that.
Yes, so for the month of September, we wanted to do something to engage Belizeans encourage them to travel within our country, experience the September celebrations at home. So we have a very fun, easy contest that anybody could do by picking up a camera or picking up your phone. So it's the Proudly Belizean Photo Contest. And to participate in the contest, all you have to do is capture your experiences and share your photos showcasing 5 different activities. So this includes, and these might be things that people are already starting to do, decorating your home in patriotic colors.
So that's one. Decorate your home.
Proudly wave your Belizean flag. And we know that we tend to see our Belizean flags come out the most during the September celebrations. Also showing off your favorite Belizean made product. And that can be anything from your favorite hot sauce to your favorite local skincare line. There's a lot you could do as long as it's Belizean made. The other option is to attend a September celebration event. Yes, and there are lots of activities that are coming up. So this could be Panyard, it could be the Independence Day Parade, it could be Carnival, and you can experience this from your part of the country. So there's a lot happening. There's a lot that you can see in the September celebrations calendar. There's a lot to take advantage of, so why not stay home and enjoy these activities?
That's 4. So the 5th is, so you said the first is showcase your home decorated in patriotic colors. The second is waving your flag. The third is a Belizean made product. The fourth is as an event. What is the 5th?
The 5th is to show off you and your family or you and your friends wearing patriotic colors.
All right, okay.
And how is the judging set to take place in terms of the pictures that are submitted?
So what we're looking for, you have to submit a photo per activity. So we want to ensure that persons submit or post 5 photos. We're going to be looking at the creativity. You could really go all out with these photos. We're going to be looking at the originality in the photo. We're also going to be looking at the visual impact of the photos. And persons have until September 26th to post the photos. So all you have to do is follow our Belizean Traveler social media accounts. So we have an Instagram page, we have a Facebook page, so make sure you're following that first thing. And then when you post your photos, ensure that your posts are public so that we could see them. Tag us using the hashtags Belizean Traveler and Proudly Belizean, and also tag our pages, the Belizean Traveler pages.
And what's in it for
I was just going to ask, what do you win?
Of course. So for the first place, it's going to be a flyover of the Blue Hole with Tropicare from San Pedro. And that is being sponsored by Tropicare. They were gracious enough to see the value in offering an experience like that to Belizeans. And because it's from San Pedro, the BTB is giving $1,000 cash to facilitate your travel to San Pedro to take this tour.
Wow.
So that's the first place. For second place, we have a Samsung Galaxy A13, and that's being sponsored by Smart. So that's going to be given away for the second place. So you also have the option of winning a brand new phone as well to continue documenting your Belizean Traveler activities. And then for third place, it's an adventure combo by the BTV that's being sponsored, and that is a zip lining and cave tubing adventure for 2 persons.
3 attractive prizes to simply be Belizean, you know, and embrace civic pride in the month of September. It costs absolutely nothing to do any of these activities. So we want to thank you definitely for coming up with an initiative like that, and of course rewarding them with additional Belizean experiences as well. But I understand that you have a giveaway for our viewers right here on our center table. So let's get the details of this giveaway.
So this is a Belizean Traveler gift hamper. There's t-shirts, there's a water bottle, there's a bag in there, your full Belizean Traveler merch to go out and wear for the September celebrations or any other activities in the country. And we have a question for our viewers. So the first person that could answer this, it's related to the first place prize being about the Blue Hole. So the first person that could tell us how wide the Blue Hole is in meters, because it does vary in feet, would be the winner of this gift hamper.
Okay, only the gift hamper,
yes,
not the phone at the front.
The phone is for the second place prize.
Okay, just making sure they know.
Giveaway.
All right, the phone is only there for display for the second place winner of the actual contest, but the giveaway is the hamper behind the phone. And all you have to do is give the measurement of the blue hole in meters.
Yes, how wide it is.
How wide it is. So we're going to invite our viewers to comment the answer in the comment section of our Facebook page. And the first person to do so, we will be announcing the winner after the break. And then you can pick up your gift package right here at our studios and, of course, present your IDs. All right? Well, any last words as we wrap up, anything that has to do with civic pride and the September celebrations from the Belize Tourism Board?
Definitely. We want to encourage all our Belizean travelers, all our Belizeans here, those coming from the diaspora as well, to enjoy the celebrations this year. I know there's a lot happening across the country. Also, go on our Belizean Traveler website, www.belizeantraveler.org. There are a number of hotels that are offering special deals to Belizeans around this time, as well as for the next couple months. So it's definitely something to take advantage of. And of course, we want to thank our sponsors that have come on for this, Smart and Tropicare, for giving us this opportunity.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the information. We look forward to seeing those beautiful photos that will be taken this September celebrations, really embracing civic pride and patriotism. All right, we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we wrap things up.
Get ready, babe. We're going on a vacation.
Finally, where are we going?
Don't worry, babe. I have we covered.
Are you sure you know where we're going?
Yes, babe. Oh, right there, see? Babe, the price me too good to be true. Me look much more better in that picture.
When life throws you a curveball, Belize Bank has your back. With our online financing, you can turn any vacation mishap into a dream getaway.
Cheers to Belize Bank for making our dream vacation a reality.
Thanks to you, babes, to turn things around.
No thanks to you, cheapo.
Ouch.
Experience the future of financing with Belize Bank online, where you can secure funds for anything, from anywhere, at any time, all without stepping foot in a bank. Apply for a loan today and unlock a world of possibilities.
Key San Pedro, and Belize City are just a click away with Caribbean Sprinter. Avoid delays by getting your tickets and boarding passes online at sprinter.bz, and welcome aboard.
Make your summer better. Over $30,000 in cash and prizes with Smart Summer Sweepstakes. Here's how you can enter for a chance to win. Sign up for a smart postpaid, broadband, or VoIP plan. Use $100 or more regular prepaid credit. Do a SIM swap or text in to the short code 786. In the body of the message, enter the number of entries you would like to purchase.
No waste no time. You can be the winner of weekly prizes. All methods give you more chances to win local airline tickets, overnight stays at numerous resorts, cash prizes, gift certificates, and much, much more. One lucky person will win the grand prize valued at $10,000, courtesy of Smart and the Belize Tourism Board.
Promotion ends September 15th. So make your summer better by getting in the race to win with Smart's Summer Sweepstakes. Smart, bringing people together.
Welcome back. We are here wrapping up a great conversation we had on this Tuesday morning. Of course, we started things off with the leader of the opposition, Honorable Moses Shyne Barrow, and he was here talking about a multitude of topics. But we were also joined in our second segment by mental health practitioners, and the conversation was all about preventing suicide in the workplace. As you know, the month of September is Suicide Awareness Month, so we will be having that conversation more. We encourage you guys, our viewers, to start having that conversation and essentially leading the way to remove that taboo I'd say essence that it comes with. In our third segment, we were joined by a representative from BTB to talk to us about the Proudly Belizean photo contest. And we want to say we have the name of the person that won the giveaway. The name is Chicha Ruiz, and just so you know, the width of the blue hole is 300 meters, and that is according to NASA Earth Observatory website. So that's where we got the information from. Chicha Ruiz, you can stop by our studios here on Coney Drive and pick up your package. Please remember, though, to present your IDs. But we have a very special happy birthday shout out, Isani.
We are saying happy birthday this morning to our Chief Executive Officer here at Channel 5, none other than Marlene Cuellar. There she is, in her former glory as our anchor.
Yeah, we want to say
birthday.
a very special happy birthday to our CEO, Marlene Cuellar. We hope that you have the best day today. We hope that you get all the cake that you want or all the cupcakes that you want. Whatever you do to celebrate your birthday, we hope that, that this year is a special one. But we want to say thank you, our viewers, for joining us. And if you are celebrating a birthday today, happy birthday to you. If you have any questions or concerns, you can send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. But please join us again tomorrow, or you can catch us on our Facebook page at Open Your Eyes BZ, as well as Instagram for behind-the-scenes content at OYE Belize. Please join us again tomorrow as you open your eyes
To start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
Have a great Tuesday.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.